I'm well known for such things as infected birds and scary rooms.
Okay, hello everyone. This is a grumpy old guy gaming, and I picked a really terrible lighting aspect to show off Grumpo Guy my long arm because we're in shadow. There's a nice profile with some face type features. We're joined by Emuz. Emuz, how you doing
Hello.
today?
How I'm doing?
Excellent. Perhaps we will have another guest come, but until they're here, in the meantime, today's subject, dothack fragment. Heard of it?
No.
But I did want to make this video, have been talking about it for much longer than I've been making it. Just going over Fragment, what it is, what it isn't, what to expect. Hitting the overview outright, so the overall tone and the message of this isn't misinterpreted in any way, shape, or form. This game is a damn blast. Still log in and play a couple times a week, 2 years in. Not too many games can I say that about. And I'm a kind of person that will milk games for as long as I can. As long as I'm enjoying them, I'm playing them. But eventually things do run their end. And Fragment is just open enough to give you that fresh feeling every time you log in, as long as you don't just burn out entirely. Anything to add?
It's a game that, while you can play it solo, the solo grind is only for those who like an extreme challenge, because this game is engineered for actually it's engineered for 3 players. It's designed. That's why there's gimmicks like the mimics who charm and confuse you, because you're supposed to have allies that can counter that. If you're solo, you're on your own. And this is also a great game to run a couple of dungeons and just have a great conversation while you're doing it.
Fantastic points. One in particular I wanted to hit on there, because you kind of nailed it right out of the gate. Game was designed for 3 players, can be soloed, designed for 3. A lot of newer players, when they get into Fragment, are very confused by things like the servers, the player count, and the overall experience of gameplay, because they're expecting this to be a JRPG styled MMO. And that is one thing it is decidedly not, is an MMORPG.
It is a PS2 game that has support for up to 3 players. That's what you're getting into. The model was designed that, since unlike with the world, servers aren't massive hubs for players to get together, and you like hundreds and thousands of people to get together, choose a thing, go out and have their individual journeys. This is more like you're playing the same copy of IMOQ. So you get your own little isolated server that up to 3 people can hang out in. You select your area, and then those 3 people go to that area, and then that server is yours until you're done with it.
And I think that's an excellent way to put it. Your own private server. It's basically a private instance of each little root town. You're not going to get those bustling cities with NPCs marching about in online play. The closest you might get, honestly, is the Discord server, if it's relatively hopping and people are partying up. The Netslum Discord is fantastic for that, and when we hit our busier points, you will see groups of people in. Hi Jamie, how's it going?
Hi. Sorry I took a little while.
No worries at all. Just throwing out some quick introductions. We were actually just in the middle of talking about the difference between Fragment and the expectations of JRPG-styled MMO. I would say probably navigating root towns is the biggest frustration for newer players. Because if you see someone in a server, you kind of want to join them. You want to pop in, see what they're doing, and a lot of times if they're out in a field or even just selecting keywords, you can't get in.
Yeah, I've noticed that quite a bit. I see a server with maybe 1 or 2 people, and I think, hey, maybe I should join them. And suddenly I can't for whatever reason.
Yeah, the big factors in that particular case would be if they're in a field or dungeon already, or if they have the Chaos Gate open.
Yeah, that's really that, and sometimes there's a red dot by it, sometimes there isn't. It just depends because it doesn't seem to be consistent. But that's what that old. There used to be a dot whenever a server was It was when server was no longer available for joining.
Hey,
Yeah, you can get pretty much any level on the server, so it's always why.
really?
Emuz is the architect and host of the Shining Darkness server, and to say he's put a fair amount of work into the parameters, both accessible through the area server program and otherwise, into the keywords of Shining Darkness would be an understatement.
Incredible.
Alrighty, I have a level 18 wood field.
Sounds like a plan. Things will hit kind of heavy for you, Jamie, but the experience gains should be on the fantastic side. Are you just physically attacking, or do you have any spells set to your shortcuts? If you have any ROM type spells set, that would be absolutely perfect for you at lower levels. That way we could just sort of run out in front line, and once you cast that ROM spell and get your hits in, we could finish off. In online play, you have to damage an enemy in order to get its experience when it dies.
See, I believe I do have a ROM skill, so that should be fine for me.
Alright.
Perfect.
Everyone ready?
Absolutely.
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
So, what are these spells you guys are putting on yourself right now?
Right now, I am casting Abdu, which is the speed charm effect. So we'll all move pretty quickly. Emuz is hitting the board with Rig Same, which gives scaling health regeneration. And I am doing the same with Rig Geem now, which gives scaling SP regeneration.
Interesting.
All of those
They're
skills...
probably some of the best buffs in the game.
Yes, and through happenstance and farming and just gameplay, we've got it all tied to gear, though it is worth noting that speed charms, not super inaccessible. They're in all the root towns, and they're not so expensive.
I currently don't have my shortcuts open, so I'll just
That works.
Let me very quickly pull up my shortcuts.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
After a while, they get to be second nature. If not, there are plenty of extra ways of keeping track of them, whether it's just pen and paper, sticky notes in the corners. 1UP made a fantastic shortcut overlay as well that will pop up your shortcuts when you hit the shoulder buttons. Also, hi Samantha Blackrose, how you doing today?
Good. My Discord changed my output settings, so I couldn't hear anybody, but I got it fixed.
Excellent.
Happens to the best of us.
So today we're doing just a little casual run through along with some open chat of what to expect from this crazy wacky dothack fragment.
Oh, yeah.
Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Going back to the work that 1UP had made about shortcuts, I have been using that actually on older versions of PCSX2, as it is, I believe, only available as only available as a what do you call it? A companion program to PCSX2. Is that correct?
I believe
That's
so,
correct.
yes.
And take all the treasure. We don't need it.
Okay.
Yeah, I use an actual PS2, so I have a piece of paper in front of me. Although at this point, for the most part, I think they're all memorized. I do refer to it from time to time when I change characters, because obviously my Wave Master's got some differences than my Twin Blade does. Not many. I try to keep everything consistent, but
Well, Tool has been very helpful for me, especially in early game, with my skills constantly changing as I get new equipment.
Fair.
Because I believe shortcuts, I wouldn't say they reset, but they change to being unused if you equip an item which has differing skills from the original equipment. Is that correct?
correct.
Yep.
Correct. If you lose the skill, it drops it off. With items, it keeps the slot there, so if you buy more items, it'll slot back in.
It does, and that gets to be a rather interesting wake-up call when you go to hit your healing drink and find that you can't use it because you're all out, even though you just bought 90 potions.
Definitely happens to the best of us.
So Sam, since you joined, can we get a couple sentences from you on your Fragment experience so far? Just the Cliff's Notes. I know, putting you on the spot and everything, but hey, that's half the fun, right?
Yeah. It's been really awesome. You know, I think half the battle is finding fun people to play with, so Agog and Emuz are always a blast.
Well, thank you, and
then,
your check
right-
is in the mail.
But yeah, it really comes down to playing with people you enjoy playing with, and just getting in the groove, running those dungeons, taking your time. I've been playing since February, and I mean, I've been playing pretty consistently since then, and I'm not even to max level yet. I'm at level 87. So it goes to show that this game has a lot to offer if you really like the dungeon crawling and have fun people to play with.
Yet another phrase I'm so glad you guys are saying them before I even get the
Better
chance
said
to
than I could
think
ever
about
put
them. A lot of people wonder
Not
in
to mention,
expecting this.
Rare farming is a joy
Oh,
that either you will get to experience one day, or you will be completely negated from ever experiencing, depending on how many runs it takes for you to get the rare you want.
it is equal parts blessing and
If you're
curse.
me, you get the 2 rare axes that you farmed for within the same day, and your number of runs is in the single digits. And then if you are my friend Eli, then it takes you like 200 runs to get one item.
You know, I'm just
And
gonna.
then suddenly your connection drops and then you lose
Oh
not
dang!
only
That
your
could
item,
happen.
but some of your progress. That happened to me the other day, isn't that right?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
You can have a good streak, or you can have a. I think almost all the ones that I've ground, I've actually gotten multiples of weapons that it only took me like 10 goes, and I've had 1 or 2 that have taken me 30 goes. I don't even remember which one that one was.
but I'm glad you threw out the phrase.
Sin of Hades, is that what you called it?
Yep,
Yes,
it is one of the higher
it's the
level
one you
twin
get at
blade
the very end
weapons
of the
there.
game from Databugs.
See.
But I'm very glad you threw out the phrase dungeon crawler there, because a lot of people wander in expecting this to be like story heavy open option RPG,
For
and
my
that
Twin
is
Blade, I
just
really
not
much
this game.
Use both of Sora's weapons and 2 together, which is a really nice weapon if you want to do magic attacks.
See.
Got more coming.
So, Agog, would you like to do some? The ambush server is ambushing.
A little bit.
So, Agog, if you've been talking and we haven't been hearing you, so if you might want to check your audio.
Okay, back after some minor technical difficulties. My congratulations to the audience who missed a good 3 minutes of me talking there. Into the dungeon we had.
So, on experience, because I know that's something you wanted to touch. Now, it's one thing that everybody who plays this game gets that sticker shock reaction to. And I kind of want to explain why I think it is the way it is and what it is. In IMOQ, the experience table was much, much more giving. You got much more experience. Your maximum was 520 experience, your minimum was 1. In Fragment, I think it's 52 and it's 0? I'm not 100% sure on that. And the reason is this was a limited time event. They did not want everybody reaching level 99 in a day. Because in theory, if you kept the original scaling of Fragment, of IMOQ, you would get to level 99 in a week. Easy. So that is probably why they brought it down, because they didn't want everybody just to instantly be the max level. Now, I leave that up to everybody to determine if that was the great decision or not, but that's probably why it is. Now, when you get in here, you're going to notice that you're not going to get as much experience as you initially expect from one of the original games. But it's not impossible to get to max level. You just have to work at it. And those last 5 levels are a grind. You get 1 experience from everything. But the goal is not to get to max level, it's to have fun doing it. And if that's the case, then it shouldn't have as huge of a damper on your experience. But I understand why people get confused and kind of get kind of, they kind of expect, a much easier grind than it is. So, do you agree with me?
I think that's not only a valid point, but one I'd like to expand on here a little bit. When you said limited time event, I think it also needs put out there that this was really more of a thank you to fans and a bit of a features test kitchen than a hard and fast game release. This wasn't meant to be out there as a full-fledged game and was very much just sort of duct tape and bubble gummed over quarantine, as has been said several times.
That fact about being a limited time release actually shocked me, as if you were to check wiki entries and such, you would actually see that they don't mention it was limited time. They just say it lasted about a year or so.
I do remember hearing somewhere, and I'm going to have to check the source on this, but it was something I'd read a couple years back when I was sort of getting into the whole Fragment scene, because honestly, the game popped off my radar just as quick as I learned about it originally. It was one of those deals where I saw it and I'm like, that's really cool. That's never coming west. But I do remember hearing somewhere that they extended the life of the official servers past when they originally intended, due to fan reaction being overwhelmingly positive and somewhat robust.
I definitely see why. Dothack works pretty well as a multiplayer game.
Oh, absolutely. And I do think just about everyone who loved playing Infection had the thought at some point, I would love to play this with my friends, or more like me, I would love to play this not as a twin blade.
True.
As everyone's favorite class, anything but a twin blade.
Well, there's two camps on that, I will say, but that's for a little bit down the road, I suppose. But yeah, this was never meant to be a full-fledged release. If you look at the story, and I am going to be as non-spoiler as possible here, but when you play through the story, a couple things you'll notice real quick. One, it's not super deep and involved, and two, it is intentionally padded out with large gaps where, and Emuz has said it countless times, you're pretty much designed to take breaks from offline play and go level up with people online. And with standard experience, if you just hit 99 after 4 or 5 days of power leveling, that whole experience is gone.
I mean, goodies. The full name of the game is dothack Fragment Online Offline, so it kind of says what it is. You know, they're both part of the whole package.
Yeah.
They're both fragments of the whole package.
Indeed.
I see what you did there.
You got it.
+5.
Good job.
Yeah. That could be said about dothack Fragment as a whole, I believe. I'm not exactly well versed in dothack. I've only started IMOQ very recently, but after playing it and seeing Fragment again, it feels a lot like Fragment is meant to be, well, like I said, a fragment of the series. It's kind of like a multiplayer demo. The best way I could describe it would be sort of similar to, if anybody's played Splatoon 2, the Global Test Fire.
Oh yeah, I used to do competitive Splatoon back in the day, which has only been a couple of years, but it feels like a long time ago. But yes, that's a good way of putting it. The selection is intentionally limited to fit the scope that you have available, which for that was 24 hours for the one Splatfest, for example. Okay, you die, Mr. Manir.
Yeah.
I definitely have to say that the game is best enjoyed over a long period of time. A little bit every day. I think a lot of people get thrown off because they want to level up and get high level really quickly, when it's like, you kind of need to slow down a little bit and enjoy it and take it in.
This is a marathon, not a sprint. And the joy is in the journey, not the destination.
Yes.
Because once you get to level 90, you're gonna be there for a while.
Well, I will throw the caveat out there that the game changes in a delightful way once you get up to those high levels, where you are simultaneously chasing those last unattainable peaks in the experience that are so close, yet so far, due to the scaling coming back to bite you. But also where you can turn around and meet all of these other players who are just going to geek out at how outrageously strong your character is, and you can help them along a bit, if not tangibly by tanking for them or helping them eliminate enemies, just being like, yeah, I ran into those, try this, and just giving them that little bit of sage advice to help them along their way.
Absolutely. That's a pretty big deal for a lot of online games, but I especially can see it here in Fragment. Given that it's such a heavy emphasis on, like you said, the journey and not the destination.
Plus there's some really cool parts of that journey since it takes out so long. Like the first time you join up in a group and it all goes south. And you all go back, laugh, and realize you have that much more run to do because now you got to get that level back.
And then there's the things that appear, the stuff that appears around just the community. Like, for example, my server has like 5 nicknames at this point because of all the weird stuff that has happened, whether it's something that I planned or not. Like, for example, there seems to be a higher chance of ambushes on this server. And then there's like the macro server has its own little legends, and these servers got its own stuff, and then the community itself, just the people around it, they've got their own, unique memories and stuff.
And the game lore itself, like the fact that New Year's Eve is 17 days a year.
It must be New Year's Eve. It's July 15th.
Literally the only event so common that we could count on it popping up on New Year's, though in all fairness, the New Year's Eve event didn't actually proc in 2021 until New Year's Day. We tried running until it popped up on New Year's Eve 2020, and we almost got it. We actually got
Setsuban instead.
Yeah, we got 2 events to spawn that night.
Wow.
And yet only one person in the West has actually run the Christmas event.
But no, it is a fantastic community here. Not only just playing the game, but, getting help running the darn thing, because we've all been there. The struggles are real. It is, again, duct tape and bubblegum on top of duct tape and bubblegum to keep a private server going and everything on a game this old. And it is fantastic that if you have a question, just simply throwing it out into the ether, you're going to get that answer real quick, and it's going to be helpful right out of the gate.
And another great thing, I haven't run into anyone telling me to check pinned yet. They're very tolerating with duplicate questions and the like, which is always a plus.
Now we need to have a pinned message that says, "You're awesome, have a nice day," or something nice like that.
Stairs down or that way. If we're going for the full clear, we better check the other side.
That's a fair assessment.
Another fun fact you may not know, as you gain experience in fields and dungeons, the server you're playing in also gains the experience. Well, gains experience of a type.
That's right. And to explain what happens when the server levels up.
So let's start with how. Every time you kill a monster, points collect and they rack up. When you clear the God statue, it's taken out of the kitty and into the actual server's experience pool. The experience there's 99. There's when it reaches a certain experience number, it levels up the area that you're in, and it's based. There are 12 area types, and each one has an experience rating. So, if you do a server and you do nothing but wood fields, you're gonna have a high level in wood, and then everything else is gonna be low. And what that does is that factors in on the maximum amount of levels you can have in that element or in the field type. It's not exactly element; it's field type. But so, for example, this server for the longest time had very high levels in the wood fields because everybody around here loves the wood fields, the dungeon type. So you'd consistently get higher ones than that. The server level, overall level, is an average of all those 12 different levels. And so, basically, it allows the server to gain access to that, plus a potential of getting some of the higher level events, like the one sin could naturally spawn and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it also increases the likelihood a custom area that you designed as you save it will be infected, and it will become another kind of event. Another infection event. So
very interesting. What would you call it? The server being, I guess you could say, growing the server like that can lead to a very personal experience, I feel, which leads directly into a question I have. Have you guys touched on how to create a server?
There's a video I made about a year ago on a fragment from the net slum that kind of shows you how to build a server, what you can do with it, how to build a custom area, and something to that effect. And so you should, if you look up a fragment from the net slum on YouTube, you should be able to find it. I'd say there's about 30 videos on that. There's some fun videos, some educational ones, but the first 5 or 6 are really how-to videos.
and fantastic how-tos at that. Nice and in-depth without being overly plotting.
Add a bookmark them sometime so I can check them out.
I will go ahead after this field and actually link you to the channel. I'll make sure to have a link to the channel in the description of this video as well. Not gonna lie, happy to not see a Manera in that mix.
Indeed. And yet, not a single death touch proc this entire time.
Yeah, that is pretty strange. I've been getting a fair amount of crits. It was actually a goal of mine to get Rig Game, Rig Same, and Abdu on gear with all of my Card 1 characters. And that's when I found out that the time gear is not in the game, so my Wave Master is woefully lacking in that regard and has to resort to speed charms. But, in all fairness, having access to all 6 elements at a fall level summons is a fair trade-off for me.
It really is.
All I gotta do is juggle sticks. That's 4 floors down.
I didn't know your Disco Turkey had 5 or plus floors. It's pretty cool. It's a very well renovated turkey.
I believe thick with multiple C's is how nobody says it these days.
I've seen a couple of people still say it.
Then it's still too current for me. But yeah, I do believe that's all the pertinence I wanted to hit as to what Fragment is and what you can expect. Anybody else have anything they want to throw in? Just random thoughts, feelings about the game one way or another? Feel free, the floor is open, and goodness knows I've talked way too much in this.
I would like to offer something myself real quick. When I started playing Fragment, I had no experience with the IMOQ games whatsoever, and it goes the same with one of my other friends who recently joined us. He also, Fragment was his first dothack game in general, and I want to also make it clear, I wouldn't say. Actually, yeah, I would say it's fine to start off with Fragment if you want to get into dothack. If you want to start with a multiplayer experience, I'd say this is fine. It's gonna be a little bit confusing if you see a couple of dialogue bits, but overall, it works for its first time experience.
Very well said, and also congratulations on the level.
Indeed. Let's see. One thing I would do is most of the guides for IMOQ do apply to this game in terms of the basic game mechanics. Monsieur, Grandpa, what the gears and the enemies have. It's not 100%, but it's close enough that it'll get you where you need to go. So if you need to do if you want to do a little research, you can. There's not a lot specifically on Fragment, but most, if not all of that, will apply to Fragment that did for IMOQ. I often refer to my quarantine strategy guide for enemy information, even though it is a poorly written guide, and I feel kind of bad that was the guide we got. But the stuff that's in there is usually pretty accurate. And Lynn's site is really good for getting stats on weapons and stuff too. So those are my recommendations. Grunties, again, get the guides for the food so you know what you're doing. Yeah, because one of the most confusing parts about the in general is how do I get the grunty that I want? How do I use the spring of mist? And those are well documented, and so you don't have to look for fragment specific guides of that stuff. Just go and look for it in for IMOQ. Quarantine's a good one because this is basically quarantine modified, so that's the most recent version that has all the items for the most part, except for the fragment specific ones. And yes, there is no aromatic grass, so an elk keeps complaining about asking if you want aromatic grass or that he's looking for aromatic grass. You can tell him it doesn't exist. It's a guild item now. Have a nice day.
Shove it in Elk's face.
Yes. Even though I like elk a lot, it's like every time it comes up in the offline, I'm like, did you know they replaced that with like the silver coin or something? It's a silver coin now. Shh.
That is fair.
But yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, right now, and the only thing I'll add is right now we're in a kind of a recovery mode that the server is not at its full peak, so the BBS and stuff is offline right now. But there is, when it is online, check the shops, check the BBS for in case there's any items available. Sometimes you can get some really nice items for a good price. That kind of thing. I think that's about it.
Very well. Sam, any last thoughts here before we wrap it up?
Not that I can really think of. I think we've covered everything. I think the game is a lot of fun, and as long as you take your time with it, then I think you'll have a lot of fun too. And looking at the rankings when they are available is a lot of fun to see who's at the top.
Very much so, yes. Hello, everybody. This is a Grumpy Old Guy Gaming. Slightly from in the future from when the majority of this video had taken place. I was hoping to get this all in one shot, and honestly, it was a fantastic group discussion, as you may or may not be able to tell, because as usual, the audio turned out wonky due to my lack of prep ahead and realization that I had just left my easy little shortcut audio for solo gameplay and recording on. Did my best to spruce up the audio where I could. And again, I want to thank Jamie, Samantha Blackrose, and Emuz for a fantastic run and fantastic discussion. Unfortunately, this video is just far too encompassing and far too in-depth to make this my usual straightforward run and chat as we go, so we're going to bounce around for a bit. And I'm recording a little B-reel footage here of my long arm walking around the streets of offline Carmina Gallica, as it were. So hopefully you don't mind that too much while we get into some other topics here. Yeah, I kind of like that. The straight at you angle. Well, maybe a little off to the side. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the angle I was looking for. So as we're walking here, I wanted to get into a couple different topics we didn't really hit on there. Or hit on in enough detail. We had mentioned the lobby server, we had mentioned area servers, but we never really got into the relationship with them too much. There is a central lobby server, the one that is up currently and has been for my entire duration in this game. Brief moment or, forever long amount of time, however you choose to see it, has been NetSlum, and that is hosted by Alkalime, who has been more than generous with her time and resources helping out this community, making sure this lobby server is up and running. All area servers branch off of this lobby server, which makes it really fun to sit there and play together, knowing that you're leveling up each other's servers and you kind of get a little feel into the design and the plans of the other people running the servers. You get some really neat flavor into them. Some are themed after some of their likes. Some people try and theme it off of dothack. Specifically, others just leave the default keywords up, which is fantastic. You can make custom areas there. You could sort of set the parameters for your keywords, and a couple people are able to do quite a few things more. There's even a server that dates back to when this game was a live service, the Crab server, that was put up by Crab General, with several custom areas that give you a better chance at getting the rare drops, like this shiny old Crim spear here with the red aura around it. We also didn't get into character creation. And if you have any questions on character creation, there are guides, there are tutorials, there are some fantastic videos made by members of the community, past and present. Maybe future, I'm not sure how time travel works by the time you're watching this video. But they all get into this quirky little nuance of the game, and the fact that picking out your stat attributes is just about as important as picking out your t-shirt. Just various things come into the stats, and it's something you don't really think about even if you're used to the game, because you didn't really create a character in dothack Infection. You just sort of played Kite. So this is your first chance to really create a character in this universe. Beautiful night sky in the background. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. I have mentioned that Alkaline has had the Netslum lobby up for a few years. Before that, there was a previous lobby server and translation attempt run by the Coldbird team. For those of you who may have seen a version of Fragment floating around on the internet, again, more than enough videos out there, some of them are mine, where the interface looks a little less like you're currently seeing and a little more like... Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, a little more like that. Well, that would be a GU styled interface. One of the things the Coldbird team tried to put together, and it was one of the implementations they put in, as well as starting to translate the game into English. A worthy attempt and a worthwhile one. That said, it is not a very complete one. Shortly after I started here, actually, user on the Netslum Discord going by the name of Alice, main character is a twin blade named Telly. If you ever run into them in game, not the most likely of tasks, but if you do, started retranslating the game, and most importantly started translating from a clean ISO, a clean rip of the game, which means that if someone were, say, playing in Japan, which has happened, or just wanted to play the original, their disc wouldn't have any information that isn't found in the translated patched version either. Also, it allows it to be repatched just off of a clean ISO. Over time, Alice put in a ton of work on their own, got fantastic progress in, and was also able to get help from various other members, more numerous than I could list. One, because I'm not very thorough in notes and I don't have the whole translation team down. I do know a few members, but they managed to get the entire story translated, most of the NPC dialogue translated, trade items translated, even some of the rare seasonal events that never quite pop up at the right time are translated. So when you go through and you're talking to someone, what that means is when you're going through offline and you run into an NPC and you're talking to them, and you get Nijukata's entire story of wondering if you're Yoshida or not, you could actually thank the translation team for sitting down and trying to get this as true to authentic as possible and implemented. Also, they're still out there and active, so if you notice anything that's kind of buggy or messed up, you could actually try and contact them on the Discord there, and someone will generally take a look at it and see if it's something wrong with the patch or something they could fix down the road. So as complete as it is, and it is mostly complete, there's still some things out there like the rarer spawning events and just some little bits and bobs that tend to get thrown out of whack. Turns out we're still not Yoshida. Now I will say that when I started, obviously the translation had not yet come about, and there wasn't any place local that had a copy of Fragment. Not really sure, aside from a passing novelty, if I would have given it much a thought. It was actually during a replay of Infection that I found myself stumbling back in and reacquainting myself with Fragment, which is a game that personally fell off the radar for me for many a year. But when I did get in, I found a cold bird copy online and played for a while on that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lecture you all about piracy. That's not my place. I've certainly done it myself. On certain games. As far as this one goes, though, as a show of support for the translation team and everything they were doing, and also because this is a game that became very, very dear to me over the course of my playing and getting acquainted with the community, I felt incumbent to pick up a copy of the game. Obviously, it's not as cheap as it was these days. It seems nothing is. But it is still on the affordable side for a game out there, and once you have a copy and a clean rip, you can get it patched ad infinitum, as it were. As updates come across, you could go ahead, get the latest version. You could even get the English grunty food voices if you wanted. That was another fantastic addition put in by members of the community. But you won't see myself or many others airing the cold bird builds anymore. And it's not a personal slant against them. In fact, it's quite the opposite. At least one member, I feel like it was more than one, but at least one that I could recall. And I'm not going to name them by name because this was before my time. I don't know them personally. I just know that it has been stated from multiple sources that I trust that they specifically asked their work not be distributed. When the project folded up, there was a lot of drama. There were some strong feelings about it, from what I gather from stories of people who were there at the time. And I can completely respect that. I could respect that person not wanting their work to be associated with it anymore. Things happen, and if that's how they feel, I can get with that. Granted, a couple years back, when there weren't really many options for playing this game, I didn't really follow that to the letter. That's more on me wanting to play the game and my curiosity about what Fragment would actually be to play, just sort of getting the best of me. I can say the current translation is a far more ethically clear way to play if you can get your hands on a clean ISO of Fragment or a hard copy and rip a clean ISO of Fragment. Even if you know someone with a patched version and they're nice enough to give you a copy of that. Don't ask me because I have no clue how. Another thing I'd like to expound upon as I walk through Carmina Gallica is Chaos Gate yet again. Yeah, I kind of felt going that slow was going to hit me. Just how awesome this community is. Video shout out to Dow on this one. The single most helpful person I think I've encountered in my entire life. But that praise to some extent can be heaped upon most everyone I've spoken to in this community. it is a very positive thing to be around a group that just wants to get together and enjoy this game. Even if they aren't actively playing anymore, you could always find someone with a crazy story of back in the day when they saw this bizarre field or server named after a random person's wife, or or just weird things in fields. Perhaps they'll bring up the ARG that came about a couple years ago. Maybe they'll bring up a dungeon full of giant turkey people. These are the kind of stories that can be found here in this community. And every day it seems there's a new chapter joined in. New people come in, have their experiences. Some are rather similar. Some are completely and wholly unique. And it's just a blast to see people enjoying this game and getting together in the common cause of just sharing their experience with this little gem of a game. And I say little because, again, as it was alluded to in the video, on the surface there isn't a whole ton to this. There's a story, again, going to be as spoiler light as I can here, but the story is a pretty decent analog for IMOQ to what the GU last recode set got in volume 4 of theirs. I don't really want to go into too much more detail than that because it would be difficult to go into depth without giving any spoilers. But if you're familiar with the game series, especially if you're familiar with Last Recode and just the story events of Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine, I feel you'll see the point I'm getting at there. But between the user-created content and the vibrant community and just the random happenstance of things that are broken in a private server for a game that went offline before some of the people playing it were probably even born, you get some really, really special and unique things. I know I had mentioned half-jokingly about the events, the seasonal events, but honestly, that clock is busted. I don't think anybody knows how to fix it, or else it would have been fixed by now. So every now and then you'll just pop on a server and it'll be New Year's. If you're lucky, you'll see Valentine's Day, maybe Setsubun, maybe Fitness Day. If you see Christmas, please find a way to record it and spread the word, because there ain't been but one recorded attempt at that event ever. It is a fantastic little game with a surprisingly deep and rich amount of gameplay once you get past that initial amount. And I know I'm gushing here, but that's kind of where I was going to wind up with this, because overall I'm an incredibly biased observer. I fell hard for this game. Community is very welcoming. The gameplay is enjoyable. It's that right level where there's enough depth to get in and do things, but still casual enough that somebody with a busy life could just sit down and chill and unwind for an hour or two. I could tell you it's probably best enjoyed online in a group. That's personal preference. But getting on voice chat, cracking a couple jokes, and, nearly dying to an insane spawn in a room, like 3 armor generals in a tiny room, it's a blast. Even dying in that room and just sort of having that silent agreement that you gotta run at least one more field and get that level back, it harkens you back to a different time. It's nostalgia layered on nostalgia, and it's fantastic. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I do hope you give this game a chance if you can. If so, please tell us your stories. Join in, add your chapters to this. This has been a Grumpy Old Guy Gaming, thanking you for coming by and watching the video. Take care. We'll see you around.